We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we discuss the queer headlines. Miami Hyatt Regency pays $5,000 settlement again in the case against the state over hosting a drag queen Christmas.
Billie Eilish came out accidentally. We are happy she is queer, but it seems some of her followers did not like it and unfollowed her. Now she asks the press to leave her alone.
Holding hands with LGBTQ plus partners scare many LGBTQ plus people as they fear for their safety after increasing attacks on the community. After that, we will talk about trans.
Madonna has long been an advocate for people living with HIV and AIDS, and she is once again showing the world why she is an LGBTQ plus icon.
The holiday season is here, and what could be the best way of kickstarting it than Wilton Manors Holiday Spectacular with Matt Doyle.
Hello and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It is Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight.
I'm out South Florida senior reporter John Hayden. This evening, we bring you the news of and perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in the LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community, who want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbian and queer women, trans, students, youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 39 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, let's begin by meeting tonight's panel, and we start with Rajee Narine-Singh, a famous transgender activist, actress, author, mystic, and reality TV personality. She is of multiracial descent and has appeared on more than 35 television shows across the world, including Queer News Tonight. Welcome, Rajee.
Yes, great to be back. And flattery will get you everywhere.
We shall see. Up next, Glen Weinzimer. He is the founder of Smart Ride, which just celebrated its 20th ride last month and has raised more than $16 million. He also owns Bona Italian Restaurant in Wilton Manors. Over the past 6 years, Bona has raised more than $60,000 to help local organizations. Welcome back, Glen.
It is a pleasure to be back. It's actually my first time out in public basically since the ride, because I've just been buried in ride stuff and then traveling, so it's good to be back.
And there's still a lot going on with it. We've got the check presentation next month or February?
January 4th, okay. Sunday, January 14th at Hunters. We're going to do there's going to be a retrospective on the last 20 years, and then there'll be a brunch, and we'll make the announcement of how much money finally comes in for this year and what each agency will receive. So we're excited about that.
And that's going to be pretty emotional, because you're going to have all the benefiting agencies. You're going to have a lot of writers and crew member there for this last go around.
It can't be more emotional than closing ceremonies, where everybody was there. and they were exhausted and emotional, and that was hard. But I practiced my closing speech with a Southern accent, and I used the F-bomb a lot. Whenever I thought I was going to break down crying, I just threw in an F-bomb, and then the audience was enjoying that. So it's amazing how that word can change you from crying, bam, you're right back on mark.
You're back.
So it worked.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to the check presentation, and you mentioned closing ceremonies were amazing. If you can, go to Smart Ride's Facebook page, scroll down a little bit, you'll see the closing ceremony. It's about an hour-long video. You can scrub to the fun parts, but it's worth watching. It really is.
Go right to the F-bombs. It's totally.
Next, let's welcome Jeff Oliverio, a founder and treasurer of the Hollywood LGBTQ+ Council. Jeff is also a founding member of My Hollywood Pride. Welcome, Jeff. And it's December now, so My Hollywood Pride is next month.
It is. It's Pride season. You didn't know it. It's right. It's holiday season, and it goes right to Pride season. Yes, we are back on Sunday, January 28th, in downtown Hollywood from 1 to 6 p.m. We actually have a weekend of events this year. So we have a business networking event on Friday night. We have our Pride 100 brunch on Saturday morning, where we celebrate our HRC 100 Municipal Equality Index, and we announce our honorees. We're doing a queer comedy night in downtown Hollywood.
Which night is that?
Saturday night.
Okay.
We're doing at Cinema Paradiso. So we're doing a queer comedy night there, and then Sunday is our Pride Festival.
Okay. Quick question. I haven't heard about the business networking event on Friday.
Yes, we are going to be announcing that. We just confirmed the venue, which was why we hadn't announced the location yet. But it's going to be Friday night. It's going to be at the Sunset Club, which is on Hollywood Beach. It's a rooftop venue. So it'll be really nice. We're going to have some light bites and drinks and just a little social.
Is it for the whole business community? Is it just LGBTQ+ businesses? Who's going to be at this?
We have partnered with the Hollywood Chamber for this, so we'll be inviting local businesses to kind of come out to support Pride. So it's really open to everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And finally, Mr. Gregg Shapiro, an inductee into the LGBTQ+ Chicago Hall of Fame. Gregg is the author of 9 books. His entertainment coverage, including celebrity interviews, run in a variety of print and online publications, including, say it with me, Gregg, Out South Florida. Welcome back, Gregg.
We're like twinsies.
We are.
I, however, am not open to everyone, just for the record.
We'll see what Rick has to say about that. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ+ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community around the world is vast. And here are the bullet points for the Queer News for today, Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. And we begin by queering up drag culture. Miami Hyatt Regency settles DeSantis drag ban lawsuit. Florida regulators have reached a settlement with a Miami hotel, ending a legal dispute over a holiday drag show the hotel hosted last year. Earlier this year, the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation sought to revoke the liquor license of Hyatt Regency Miami after the hotel held a Christmas-themed drag show in the presence of minors. The performance, A Drag Queen Christmas, was held in December of last year at a theater on hotel property as part of a wider holiday-themed tour that took place across 36 cities. It featured several stars from the Emmy-winning competition show RuPaul's Drag Race. Minors were allowed in if they were with an adult. As part of the settlement, the Miami hotel will pay $5,000 fine and has agreed not to allow anyone under the age of 18 to attend any performance at the hotel that contains, depicts, or simulates any activities forbidden in Florida statutes on lewdness. The settlement was reached, and a spokesperson for the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation was quick to chime in, saying, quote, under the leadership of Governor DeSantis, when licensees break the law, they are held accountable, end quote. That is a wonderful quote to end this story on, because you know what? You lost. You lost. $5,000, drop in the bucket. Last month or in October, Our House, which was under a similar investigation and could lose their liquor license, relatively same result. I think they were a $10,000 fine. But the shows go on, and they will continue to go on. Governor DeSantis lost, and he can read the writing on the wall. He lost Our House. He lost this. His drag ban, which is part of, if I can get back to that, part of the oh my goodness, depicts or simulates activities. The activities in the drag ban are what this is referring to. But it's not going to happen. The Supreme Court is declining to intervene. You lost. And my God, I just can't say that enough. This is probably the most I'll say Ron DeSantis lost until we start primary season.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, is this a reflection of how he's going to do in next year's elections? Because, you know, I was nervous before he really announced that he was going to be a candidate. I was thinking, oh my God, but he's really not doing that well. I know he's second to Trump, but I think he thought he was going to be a lot more, the
second coming of Christ.
Yeah, exactly.
Orange Jesus.
He's losing for another really important reason, is he's telling people like myself who have children of what they can do with their children. In this example, I would not be able to bring my son to a drag queen Christmas, but I can bring him to any rated R movie I want to bring to, which simulates lewdness and activities that are deemed for people over the age of 18. And I think that DeSantis's platform is starting to ring in the ears of voters and also of parents who, you can veil it as we're protecting children. He's not protecting children. He's creating culture wars to get attention and headlines. And these headlines are great for him because they're making him lose.
Yeah.
And minors need to be protected from Republicans, not drag queens. And is it just me, or does that spokesperson, Melanie F. Griffin, look like she probably heads her local chapter of Moms for Lobotomies? That she could be in that group?
Oh my God.
Is she in a throuple?
No, that's
asking.
DeSantis is just sitting in the corner with his iPhone recording the whole thing.
Moms for lobotomy. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Girl, that one tickled you. You're tickled.
That's why I'm here.
I am. That's a good one. Oh my God.
Lady, you can run it back.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm looking for a pill or something to give you. I'm not sure what I'm. It is fun to sit here and laugh because we do feel sort of a sense of victory.
Yeah,
at
that's
this.
true.
And it's fun for me to get up here and say you lost and you're a loser. And those statements are true, but damage has been done as well. Drag Queen Christmas is not coming back to the Knight Center. There won't be any drag shows, I believe, at Arch Center or Parker or Broward Center up here. And that's an impact. That's because of this. It's just not worth them having to fight the state, at least in this particular year. At some point, we're going to get an administration change. At some point, maybe we'll be able to work. Maybe at some point, maybe the Supreme Court will just decline to hear the case, and everything will be open for business like it should be, and they'll feel more comfortable going in. But threatening a restaurant, threatening a venue with their liquor license is death to them. Because even while we're paying $85, $200, $300 for seats at these venues that support the arts, and that's great, liquor and $8 pretzels are the driving revenue at these theaters. So if they lost this, this would be really hard. So the fact that there are venues that are turning their back on the community, it's sad, it's despicable, it's understandable. And I think that's where we are. Watch this space, because I have a feeling when we do this story next year, it's going to be very different.
Let's hope so. All right, next, let's queer up entertainment. More than 100,000 fans unfollow Billie Eilish during first 30 days of coming out. It wasn't long after pop singer Billie Eilish came out as queer in an interview that she saw more than 100,000 followers bail from her Instagram account. Eilish told Variety in a profile for last month's Power of Women issue that she never really felt like she could relate to girls very well. She loves girls as people and humans and is physically attracted to them. Variety wrote that for a stadium-selling artist from a different era, such a revelation would have required record label ruminations about the effect it could have on her career. But such concerns still hold some sway in this era, at least regarding social media followings. Eilish's follow-up comments to Variety seemed to worsen the exodus, noting that between the comments appearing on December 2nd and a day later, 428,000 Instagram users hit the unfollow button on the Grammy winners page. Still, the loss of some fans didn't seem to faze Eilish, who did not seek to explain her earlier comments when Variety asked her about her coming out. When approached for comment on the red carpet of Variety's Hitmakers celebration, she said she didn't intend to make a grand gesture of coming out. Rather, she could not believe that people did not know. But when she saw the article, she realized it had happened and she found it cool. This is interesting because you wouldn't think that that many people would care enough that 100,000 people would unfollow. And who were those people? And did she really need them anyway? And how many followers does she still have? So are we making more out of this than needs to be, or is that just a drop? I don't know what her numbers are.
He has 110 million followers.
So it's a drop.
Oh, this is a drop, and it's an acceptable drop. Because
and as of today, I'm included in that follow.
Okay.
I decided to follow her today. Yes.
Well, you know, it's funny because I think it's one thing for people to speculate. It's another thing when you can't come out and you announce it. Right. But yeah, like you all are saying, it's a drop in the bucket, you know. And so, were they really her fans? You know.
Well, look at Ricky Martin years ago. I mean, when he came out, you know, it was going to be the end of the world, and he was afraid to come out and did nothing to hurt his career. He's just skyrocketed, and he does just fine for himself. And I'm sure the same thing is going to happen here.
Well, I always thought she had kind of a baby butch quality anyway. So I'm relieved to know.
Turned on, didn't she?
Well, I'm relieved to know my gaydar is still somewhat reliable.
Yeah, I was in the camp of people who thought it was already known. But I also, when you look at those numbers, the 110 million, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are on a daily basis of people that cancel social media. That could be also the loss of followers. So I think we could be making a little bit out of this that doesn't exist because
maybe she gained followers.
And you know, most even people that have 110 million followers, there is a segment of you that are followed by bots. So let's you know, was it 100,000 people that made a decision? Oh, she's a lesbian, unfollow. I don't think so.
You know, I think it's as you're right. The number as a percentage is
0.1
is small.
We can only talk about percentages tonight.
But this story highlights the awesomeness of Billie Eilish. She has 0 F's to give. 0, nada, not one. This show, and she doesn't care if no one else buys her next album. She's going to be okay. If everyone buys her album, that's great. We get to see her at the Grammys again next year. That's where she is on this. And I love her for this. Personally, I didn't know she was gay or lesbian. I don't really care. You know, good on you, baby. She's always supported the community. I've always been praying that her brother would be gay, and I'm not sure if
he's adorable.
He's a little
Are you
hot.
willing to have breaking news right now?
He's a little hot.
Know something the rest of us don't?
No. I'm just saying if she comes and
opining.
Finn is fine.
That's the word.
Finn is
Finn, that's his name.
fine.
And yeah,
Call me. I'll help you can walk Billie through this. Call me Finn.
And I'll give you the name of a good lawyer if he calls you.
well, I love Billie anyway. So next, let's queer up gay culture. Do you hold hands with your LGBTQ partner? Surveys report 67% of us don't over fear for safety. The study conducted by Pridewide in collaboration with Barefoot Wine surveyed 1,053 LGBTQ plus people in the UK between September 22nd and the 9th of October 2023. It found 2/3 of people, 67%, have avoided holding hands in the past 12 months for fear of a negative response. This finding comes amid rising LGBTQ plus hate crimes rates across the UK and follows several high-profile hate crime incidents, including a lesbian couple being harassed on the London Underground, Drag Race UK star Pixie Polite being threatened with a whiskey bottle stabbing, and the attack on 2 men outside the 2 Brewer in Clapham in the summer. Queer people told Pink News that how they are now hiding their identity. Their identities in public out of fear for being violently attacked on the street. The research also found that those surveyed, they reported feeling loved, proud, and in sync or connected when holding hands. However, holding hands also made some feel self-conscious, anxious, and unsafe. Alongside this, 8 in 10 LGBTQ plus people agreed that hand-holding can be a powerful act of visibility, and nearly half said they feel validated and safer when they see others holding hands. A huge 85% also said they want to see more LGBTQ plus people holding hands in public. Wow. You know, when I read the story, I think about my life, and I don't want to get choked up, but I have never been out publicly with any guy that I've dated. I never have. Because a lot of the men that date us are heterosexual identified. Mm-hmm. And in recent years, I've had like some guys ask to go out on a date, but because it's been this way for so long, I have a fear now of like, oh my God, if I go out, are people going to make him feel uncomfortable? Because I'm open, I'm out, I'm Rajee, I'm comfortable with me, but I always worry about the other party, and I'm thinking, oh God, like, do I even want to put myself in that situation? Holding hands? Shoot, I mean, I can't even get to that point. I haven't even been out on like on a date, an official date. And listen, I mean, I don't want to come off like a hoe, but
Truth be told, go on. We're all ears.
But I mean, I've had a lot of men in my life. You know, I've dated a lot of men, but in secret, you know, behind closed doors. And so, but I'll tell you this, when they come over, if they better bring me something to eat. I mean, like, I make the best of my situation. Like, we'll have, if you can't take me to dinner, then bring me dinner. You know, if we can't go to the movies, like, you know, bring something to the table. So that's just been the story of my, and I think
Blockbuster's no longer in business. They can't bring a movie to you.
Netflix and chill.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring your credit card.
Yeah. But it really is. I mean, like, I read that story and I was like, oh my God, I started thinking about my life. And and I don't speak for all trans women. I mean, there's some trans women that are out and loud and proud, but I think because I'm of a certain age, and like back in the day, it was like, and then also, you know, it's all relative to like the individual, you know.
You've spoken openly about, you know, being attacked and things. So without a doubt, I can imagine that there's this level of fear. It's almost a trigger for you, you know, all of a sudden, are people looking? Whether they are or they aren't. And I respect that. Like, there's a personal part of you that has to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And that should be a natural thing. But I think it's uncomfortable for, even in Wilton Manors, for people to hold hands. You know, there are times, like, you know, you see sometimes, and it always makes you feel good when you see them walk by our restaurant and stuff, but you don't see as many people holding hands as you would think they would. You know?
I just assumed they didn't want to hold their partner's hand because they were hoping to still maybe see if they could trick out with somebody else as the night went on.
That's possible.
They're looking to hold someone else.
I'm not saying it's ever happened to me at Bona's. So Greg, you've been, and I don't, and I
mean bonus, but it's Bona.
And I'm not trying to throw any shade on age or anything, but you have been in a relationship for more than 30 years.
31 years.
31 years.
Well, my husband Rick and I do hold hands in public.
Okay.
But that's mostly to prevent one of us from one of the other
wandering off,
falling and breaking a hip. So we kind of just grip onto each other for security. Like, don't fall.
But
now
30 years ago, like, did you all hold hands? That's what I
well, we were living in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
And there was a pretty visible gay community and a visible gay neighborhood where you would go, and it was never an issue.
But like, what about when you would be, God help you, if you were over in Indiana, in the region, in the Elkhart area, or if you were in suburban Chicago? What point, because you go back 31 years, you're in the early 90s, and obviously you were gay in the 80s as well. At what point do you remember it sort of changing? When did you start feeling comfortable holding hands in public, and was there any particular event that made you feel that way?
Well, I think at Prides, that was always a place where you sort of showed affection to your spouse or your lover, your boyfriend, or your trick, whatever. But I think really and truly it was the early 90s. I think that was the turning point, because I had been in I'm sort of a serial monogamist, so I had been in other previous long-term relationships, and I don't really remember holding hands with the others in the 80s, but in the 90s it was clearly things were better, things were improving, and yeah, so
I can tell you, I remember being in Key West for the first time and holding hands in Key West and walking, and as time has gone on, I would not hold hands in public in Key West anymore. On Duval Street, it's not friendly anymore. You know, between the cruise ships that are coming in with Middle America, the fact that they've opened up all these mainstream hotels, you get to a point on the island, if you're not near Bourbon Street or 801 or headed in that direction, the island is completely different, and it is not as welcoming as it used to be, which is one of the reasons that when I go down there, I'll tend to stay at the resort that I'm staying at, and we call it the compound, because there's no reason to leave. At least there it's clothing optional, and you can be yourself. And you can't necessarily be yourself anymore. At least I don't feel that way.
Yeah. Now, Jeff, I have a question, because you're from a different generation behind Gregg, and you've also been in a long-term relationship.
Yes.
When did you start feeling comfortable holding hands? Do you feel comfortable holding hands in public?
Well, it's interesting. I just came back from we went on a family cruise for the week of Thanksgiving with my entire family on a Royal Caribbean ship. And again, I hadn't been in like a big environment like that in a while, where, Tony and I travel, alone or with my son. But, when you're in a cruise ship, it's like you have like a platform of people around you wherever you go. So there were moments where, again, we could have just been holding hands or being affectionate. And then I realized, there's a lot of people here that are not from the world that I'm from, so it does, I'm always aware of it. I also do think that there are moments where I've been places where I've said, we will, not identify as boyfriends or as partners, because I can feel the energy. I mean, you're talking about Key West. You can walk in Miami Beach in certain places where I do not feel comfortable walking hand in hand.
Lincoln Road was a place where you felt comfortable, and you don't anymore as much. I mean, all these places are great places, and I love Key West. But I don't believe that it's as comfortable. And part of it is, I'm going to be uncomfortable if I'm staying at, say, a mainstream hotel, the Waldorf in Key West. If you and I were there together and we were sitting out by the pool and you wanted to lean on my chest, I would feel uncomfortable for myself, but also for the family sitting across from me that has their kids and they feel uncomfortable. So none of us are going to be comfortable.
Yeah.
It's like, why put myself in that environment?
Yeah. That's how I felt on the cruise.
Because the children need to learn it. I have a question. I have a quick question. Round the table real quick. Yes or no? Are we being... And we're in a hot spot. We're in a very friendly part of the country. Yeah. But even here, are we being gently cajoled back into the closet? Glenn?
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I got to say, the whole thing about South Beach, when you were talking about Key West, I thought South Beach right away. Because when I came down in '89, South Beach was very different. I do think to an extent this is the thing that has always pissed me off. Heterosexual couples can hold hands, they can kiss, they can hug, and it's natural. When we do it, we're flaunting. We're vetting children. I mean, it's like such a double fucking standard.
Oh, absolutely.
It just pisses me off. And when I heard you all talking, gay men talking, I started really getting mad about that. Again, I just you think about it and the irony, it's just such hypocrisy. A straight couple can hold hands and it's not a problem. And they do it in front of children. Yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? So, anyway.
Cajoled into back into the closet?
I think the answer is, I think it's yes. And I also think, which was mentioned in the story, that holding hands and doing that, there are times when I will do it on purpose because I know that visibility does matter. Right. So I do think, yes, the hate is coming at us to push us back, but we do have to be vigilant and try to represent ourselves, again, in the best way possible when we're in different settings.
Yeah.
And Gregg, last comment, are we being cajoled back into the closet?
I just think it depends on where you are. If you're in P-Town, I don't think it's an issue. You're walking down Commercial. But if you're in Indianapolis, it might be an issue. Yeah. Well, sorry, Indianapolis.
I think that this conversation has shown we are all at different places, and everybody's relationship is different. Everybody's journey is different. But yeah, to your point, visibility matters. And so yeah, sometimes I remember one time I was out with a friend. I was in Key West, and there was some Bible beater on Duval, screaming about the homosexual. And I was with a guy, but we weren't dating. We were like down there as friends, and I was like, come on, we're going to make out. And so I just started kissing, and then he starts losing his shiz all over the place, and people started applauding. It was one of my better moments. And I encourage people, if you feel safe, if you feel that you can make a difference with just creating a moment, do it, because we need to be visible.
And I respect the cruise ship decision, because you're in a locked environment where you may keep seeing these people, and then it becomes uncomfortable for everybody for the entire week that you're gone. Where doing it in Key West on the street, you may never see this person again.
Yes.
You know, you're not going to like run into them. It's like, oh God, we have reservations at the same time at the restaurant. Isn't this uncomfortable? You're at the next table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I am who I am.
Well, next, let's queer up health. Madonna's Emotional World AIDS Day concert and first days in New York living with the gay community. Madonna has been an icon in the LGBTQ plus community since the 1980s. And this week she proved why what she really thinks about the gay community as she stopped her world tour concert in Amsterdam to make very personal remarks about the gay community and the importance of World AIDS Day. She repeats over and over, "Did you know that? We tribute to our community and all that has been lost to AIDS. So we remember using Madonna's emotional challenge."
To perform each evening with my children, who mean everything to me. Today is World AIDS Day. Do you know that? Is that important to anybody? Maybe it seems like it's so far away that it doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't.
It's just another holiday. But let me explain something to you. There is no cure for AIDS. People still die of AIDS. Did you know that?
Yes.
Just 5 people said yes. When I first came to New York, I was lucky enough to eventually meet and become friends with so many amazing artists, musicians, painters, singers, dancers. The list goes on and on, writers. And then one day people started getting sick, and nobody could understand what was happening. People were just starting to lose weight. People were dropping like flies. They were going to the hospital. Nobody understood what was happening. The news started calling it the gay cancer because it was predominantly in the gay community, which was a terrible shame, because I don't know if you understand this right now, but in the early 80s, it was not cool to be gay. It was not accepted to be gay. Did you know that? Yeah. Or do you just take it for granted right now? No. So to be able to stand up and say, I am a homosexual, was a very brave action. A very brave and courageous thing to say and do.
It fucking still is.
Right, but the point isn't really about that. Can you imagine what it was like in that time when being gay was considered sinful and disgusting? When suddenly the vast majority of the gay community started dropping like flies and people were dying everywhere? When I say they were dying everywhere, I'm not exaggerating. Every day I would wake up and hear a new story, a new friend. I'd be visiting someone new. I'd be sitting by their bedside watching them die. Hundreds and hundreds. Meanwhile, nobody in the medical community wanted to do anything about it because they said, well, fuck it, they're faggots. They deserve to die. Yeah, that's what they said. It was a pretty devastating, scary time. And I personally lost so many friends, so many loved ones. I would have cut off my arms if I could have found a cure for them to live. I watched so many people die, male and female, children, straight, gay, etc. Because in those days, people didn't test blood in the hospital for blood transfusions. So children were also ostracized if they had HIV. I don't know if you know that. In any case, it was a devastating time, and for me, it was like the whole generation was wiped out. And I watched my very best friend, Martin, die. I was holding his hand. He was suffering so much, he could barely breathe. He wanted me to play Maria Callas. He said, play Costa Diva. And I did. And I said, please, Martin, let go. And I watched his spirit leave his body. And I don't know if you know this, but during Live to Tell, he is the first face that appears. And then there were so many others afterwards. I'm not saying this because I want you to feel sorry for me. I want you to recognize how lucky you are right now to be alive.
That was a lot. That is so much. And it reminds us why for 40 plus years and counting, Madonna has been a fierce ally to our community. Anybody who gets in her way over the decades has gotten what's theirs. But the fact that she stood up for us when we literally couldn't stand for ourselves. She stood up for us through decades and fights and HIV in the 90s and marriage equality fights. She's been there, and she's drawn a lot of negativity around the last few years for various reasons. Some superficial, some perhaps more substantial, but nothing is more substantial than the fact that she loves us. She loves us. Yeah. She comes to us. She holds our hands. She's just a lot. And she talked about her best friend who passed away. Also, if you're old enough to have seen the Truth or Dare concert documentary that they made, one of the dancers, Gabriel Troupin, passed away of AIDS when he was only 26. And I wanted to say that. And she kept saying, did you know that? And it's almost like personal reflection. Like, oh my God, did you know that? Like, did I know that? Did I remember that? She comes in, and from my reading of her there is that she can't believe it. When she asks us, did you know that? It's not only are we keeping ourselves up on our LGBTQ history, it's that, oh my God. It's not, did you know that? It's almost like, can you believe that? Yeah. And so thank you, Madonna. Thank you so much for this speech and 40 plus years of love and friendship.
I mean, it's just, I saw all the people, pictures of the people that passed away. And I remember like each one, like when they died, and we stand on so many shoulders. We really do. Those were the horror days. And I lived through that, and I know we all did. And I think what happened is, thank God we got the medicines that now you can have it, and it can be a chronic thing where, as long as you take your medicine, for the most part, you can live. But back then it was a death sentence for, I would say, probably 90% of the people that got it. And, this new generation that didn't see that, I think a lot of people just take it for granted. But anytime I have the opportunity to like remind people, like, listen, we had a while to get here. We stand on so many of those people that died because they took medication. The medical community was experimenting, trying to figure out things. Those people died taking these medicines that maybe weren't the greatest and was hurting them more than helping them, and that sort of thing. I think of Ronald Eric Allen, my dear friend. He was a beautiful dancer, died at 21 years old, and he had his whole future ahead of him. At the funeral, I sat there thinking I was so old and I had lived so much life, and now all these years later, I mean, all the life that I've lived, and he missed out on it. So it's just, it's just, I don't take it for granted. I really don't. And you just saw people just dropping like flies. And it's like they'd be okay one day, and then 2 months later you'd see them and they'd have that look, because it was like this look that they would get. And it was just like, oh my God, they have it. Oh my God, they have it, you know. And I just knew I was going to die from it. Because, see, you know, they labeled it as the gay disease. And at that time, I was identifying as a feminine gay male. And I just said, well, it's going to happen to me because it's happening to so many around me, you know. It's bound to happen.
Inevitable. I think that her timing is also very important because we've gotten to a place where there's a sense of complacency. And I was told yesterday of someone who's 30 years old that died of AIDS this week. Or last week, because he stopped taking his medication. So yes, you can live a healthy life with HIV, but what if you stop taking your pills? Then you're going to die of AIDS, and you're going to have wasting, and you're going to get CMV, and you're going to have Kaposi-sarcoma, and things that people don't even think about. I remember several years ago on the ride, for Smart Ride, at the closing, I define like two different groups of people. Those who are over 30 know someone who's died of AIDS. Someone under 30 doesn't. And we did this thing like, if I say AZT, half the room thinks it's a fraternity. For those of us over 30, it was a drug that extended your life, but it wasn't a better life, nor a life necessarily worth living. You know, when we talk about the quilt, you know, half the room thinks of a grandma sitting on a front porch knitting, where those over 30 know that the quilt is actually the size of a standard coffin, because that was the way that you can memorialize and put it out there. And people would make these quilts, which represented their friends that were lost, a lot of which couldn't be buried in public because they had AIDS and they didn't want them in certain cemeteries and stuff. So there's a lot that has to be passed forward. And it has to be taught because people have forgotten. I mean, I think as a part of our own makeup, we put up our own defenses. Seeing the pictures that we just witnessed, they take you back. You know, my mind doesn't let me remember all that ugly, all that sadness, all those people sitting in a hospital bed with someone holding their hand and they can't even move. You know, I think her words there are important and are timely. You know,
that hospital room picture was very famous. The family was saying, I really do hope that as many people as possible do see this video because it's really powerful and it's meaningful, and it's especially essential viewing for the gay community here in South Florida, where South Beach is now an HIV hotspot, with new infection rates being more than 4 times the national average.
Florida still remains number 1 in the nation, and Broward and Dade counties are the two top areas within the nation where new cases of infection are.
It's so important to remember this,
You know, hearing Madonna say those words, did you know that? I think even for her audience members, again, if you're at a Madonna concert, you have a certain level of expendable finances to be able to buy a ticket. She is probably her most popular, group of people are white gay men, not just gay people, but probably white gay men. And this is a disease that is no longer affecting white people.
Right.
And it is the privilege of hearing people in the audience that there was not silence was actually repulsive to me, that people were, again, commenting or talking over or whatever they were doing, was rather disgusting. It was embarrassing to imagine myself and disrespectful. But this is a disease that is, it is great to have meds if you can have access to them. It's great if you have access to healthcare. It's a privilege. we in this community, and it's sad that we have such high rates of infection and people contracting it when we have access, even free access to things, because there's millions of people across the world that have zero access. There isn't a clinic, there isn't an AHF, or there isn't an organization to help you get tested, treated, preventing. And I think her words are really important to remind people about the privilege that we have for healthcare.
Absolutely. And to touch on what you said, a lot of people, and Glenn, as a Smart Ride founder, you know this, that you mentioned the complacency. But there's a complacency because we're in America. There are currently about 35 million HIV/AIDS cases worldwide. 34 million, 25 million of them are in sub-Saharan Africa. So HIV/AIDS is under control in America, but not in sub-Saharan Africa. Another 10% are in South Asia, and that's not counting China. So yes, while and it's terrible that someone didn't take their meds, and the mental health aspect of living with HIV/AIDS is a completely different story. And I'm sad that some people don't avail themselves. But the fact is, this is still a global crisis. We're talking about World AIDS Day, and we've got a handle on it. It's still painful. It's still painful here, and it's still painful to have to be able to, it's a privilege to walk with our friends who are positive, but it's also painful to watch them go through it. But the fact is, this is a global disease. It is not getting better in many places because they don't have access. And Madonna speaking up like this, and she was in Europe, she was in Amsterdam. That helps. She's our Princess Di.
Yes, she is.
Princess Di was going out there and just hugging an AIDS patient, and that was earth-shattering in the moment. And Madonna, I won't say she picked up the mantle because she was carrying it with Princess Di and Lady Diana in the 80s and early 90s as well. But she's our Princess Di.
I just got to say one last thing.
Yes.
People don't talk about U equals U. See, I think if people were more educated, because once you're on your meds and you're undetectable, you are non-transmittable. And so that needs to be blasted all over the world. And these countries need to get on board with helping their citizens that are HIV positive, because if they get on medicine, they won't spread it.
But first off, it's completely avoidable. You don't have to get HIV. And that's the thing, is it's not okay to get it, because no one knows what's going to happen in 35 years. You don't know what it's going to do to your liver, your heart, or anything else. No one's been on those drugs that long. I've been on them for 30 years at this point, and I can tell you that they have repercussions. There's other things that happen because you've been taking these meds for so long. And you do get to a point where you have, I can't think of the right word right now, but you just can't take the pills.
The fatigue.
It's pill. Thank you. That's the word. It's pill fatigue. When you take 13 pills at night, you're at some point you go, I just can't swallow those. And and I can see how this guy that died, he didn't tell his partner, he didn't tell anybody. He just quietly stopped taking him, and his doctors knew that he was getting sick, but he did nothing about it. And you can't change that. But we also, to the point of it's a worldwide global problem, but in where we're seeing the greatest number, yes, as white privileged or well-to-do middle class, we have access and we have knowledge, but we live in a state where you're not allowed to say gay, where you don't get sex education in schools. So when people are coming of age and they're out there exploring, no one has told them. So you can't always blame them for doing something stupid, because it wasn't stupid. They were not educated because our state won't allow it to be educated. And then if you're disproportionately affected because of economics. If you're Latino or Black, you're at a higher risk. If you're a trans woman, you're at an even higher risk. So these are all people and groups that are maybe thrown out from their home because they're gay and their father doesn't want a faggot, so he beats them up and then they're homeless. And how do you survive? You become a sex worker. And you've not been educated. And so by the time you're picked up by a Pride Lines or a Sun Serve or any of these organizations, you may already be positive, and you may not have even known, so.
If you are in South Florida, if you are coming to South Florida, we are home to the World AIDS Museum. And a few moments ago, Glenn was touching on AZT, which was the early medication that it kept you going. And if you were able to keep going long enough, you got the next generation of meds. But at the World AIDS Museum, you couldn't even get AZT particularly easy. You had to have a special prescription pad, and your doctor had to be educated on this particular drug. And there they have a prescription pad from the mid to late 80s when AZT was coming on the scene. It's an artifact, it's a relic, but it is a way to physically touch and start to wrap your head around what it was. It's a totem. It is linked to the past, and the people at World AIDS Museum do a great job. So go there. It's not a large space. You can be in and out in an hour, but what you'll learn and what you'll be able to share is important. And I hope that going forward, we're able to have more fierce allies like Madonna, because she knows the game's not over.
Next, let's queer up gay entertainment. Harmony Waves presents Wilton Manors Holiday Spectacular coming December 11th. Join Tony Award-winning Matt Doyle and others at Wilton Manors Holiday Spectacular, one of the most awaited parties of the season. The event will take place on December 11th at 7 p.m., and VIP access will begin at 6 p.m. at Richardson Historic Park and Nature Preserve. The event is presented by Harmony Waves and Wilton Manors Business Association. There's another reason for South Floridians to join this party. Your favorite party host and television and radio personality, Faye Watt, will be hosting this event along with Stoli USA National LGBTQ+ Ambassador Patrick Gallino. The event will also feature a lineup of local South Florida entertainers such as Christopher Hamlin, Delta Miles, Eitan DeRay, Jennifer McLean, Joel Santos, and others. VIP ticket includes VIP seating, an open bar, wonderful appetizers, and the famous holiday cookie table. The event will feature some of the hottest bartenders you've ever seen. General admission tickets start at $39. VIP tickets start at only $99. But buy your tickets early and save your spot at the event, as ticket prices will go up. Further information can be found at harmonywaves.org. I tell you, Wilton Manors knows how to throw a party, and that just the space, the venue, and then having Faye Watt there and all this other talent. I think I'm like having an anxiety attack. I'm so excited about it.
Okay, calm down. You have to drive me home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going just for Faye Watt. Yeah. It's Faye Watt's there, honey. I'm in the house.
Hot bartenders and cookies. Is there anything better in the world?
This is a tough story because they say the hottest bartenders you've ever seen. I've put a lot of research into this particular question. I have visited bars high and low.
Mostly low.
Mostly low. But this is going to be a really fun event. I'm really looking forward to it. And it's next week. Holy cow.
I was also shocked to learn that Harmony Waves is not a drag queen.
That should be their mascot.
I know. I mean, it's like when I heard, I was like, who's Harmony Waves? I don't know who that is.
Miles is a very good one.
Yes, Delta Miles.
I think the drag queen name would have to be Harmony Waves, like with a Z on the end, the S, so you can kind of flare it up a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. That's not the only fun event going on. We can visit Lauderdale's Walk and Roll restaurants announced. Visit Lauderdale is known for its party life, scenic seashores, and delicious wine and dine options. To add more bliss to this gourmet paradise, Visit Lauderdale is announcing the opening of Walk and Roll, Greater Fort Lauderdale Food and Wine Festival's Asian Street Food Music Experience. Curated by two happy Buddhas, the restaurant will be inaugurated on January 11th at 6:30 p.m. at Backyard in Fort Lauderdale. The event is strictly for those 21 and above. The restaurant lineup for the inaugural Walk and Roll will include Baoshi, Jeepney, Krakatawa, Lutong Pinoy, Miso, Japanese Tapas, Two Korean Girls, which is a restaurant, Red Pine, Sweet Aloha Ice Cream, Temple Street Eatery, and Zuru Ramen Bar. I'm so hungry now. This cultural experience will highlight Asian cuisine and culinary artistry throughout Broward County. And don't forget, a portion of all proceeds go to the Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital. You can be part of this event. Tickets are only $70. Further information is available on Visit Lauderdale's website. Visit Lauderdale, everyone under the sun.
And
Yeah, he's awesome. I'll tell you, the great thing about this is it's going to expose people, even residents here, to a food scene that they might not be fully aware of. I mean, we all know, because of our proximity, we have great Mexican food, Latin American food, even a few British specialties have come over from people who decided to settle here from Europe, but we're not really well known for our Asian cuisine. And we've got some really good Asian cuisine in Broward County. So this is going to be a great way to spotlight this. And of course, with Visit Lauderdale overseeing it, kiss.
Well, Fort Lauderdale doesn't have a Chinatown. I mean, all the other cities in which I've lived, Chicago, Boston, D.C., they all have Chinatowns. So this is like having our own little Chinatown now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love
Wilton
it.
Drive's got a lot of Asian restaurants.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not shy on TJ's. TJ's is fantastic. Tie Me Up.
Yeah.
Sushi. There's another one.
Sushi Song.
Girls.
Is
or something.
Geisha.
Geisha.
Geisha is great.
So we've got some great restaurants right on Wilton Drive. If you're not willing to go to the big party, you can spend the same $70 and enjoy Wilton Drive at some of these Asian restaurants.
Yeah, I was excited to see Krakatoa is a restaurant in downtown Hollywood. They're LGBTQ friendly owners and great, amazing food. And as you pointed out, a lot of vegetarian options for people who don't eat meat. And love to see our local. They actually started, kind of good story about them. They started in the Yellow Green Market in Hollywood, and which has become an incubator for a lot of really interesting restaurants. We have 2 restaurants, I think now, or maybe 3 in downtown Hollywood that started as booths in the Yellow Green Market. Krakatoa was one of them. So I've been frequenting them since they were in the Yellow Green Market.
I tried them. They were really good.
Yeah.
You said something about British food. Like, that is a thing, and they came here with it? Would they run out of town?
I was thinking
Indian food I love.
Honestly, I was thinking more French and German food.
All right.
When I was thinking of Europe, so
Like bangers and mash. I mean,
now,
nothing perfect.
Greg, your husband is our culture and food writer at Out South Florida. Do you think you'll be attending this?
I have no doubt that we will be there.
Okay.
I'm sure.
So go to that. You might see Greg and Rick. You can take pictures, selfies, only $25.
$25. Make you holla.
That's all.
Yummy. I love Asian food.
Rajee, take us to church.
Yes. Oh, let's go to church. Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
Well, we finished tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up education. Mother of South Florida trans student athlete expresses gratitude, but is saddened over the loss of privacy. The family of the transgender student at the center of a controversy involving Monarch High's girls volleyball team has received support but lost privacy. Jessica Norton, an information management specialist at the school, publicly identified herself as the mother of the girl for the first time on Monday. Through a statement from the Human Rights Campaign, she said, quote, "The outpouring of love and support from our community this past week, has been inspiring, selfless, and brave," end quote. But she feels that a lot of things were taken from her family too, including their privacy, sense of safety, and right to self-determination. Norton also is one of several school officials who were reassigned from Monarch High pending the outcome of the investigation.
Next, LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up drag culture. Man who punched RuPaul's Drag Race queen at McDonald's convicted of homophobic hate crime. A court has ruled that an attack on RuPaul's Drag Race UK star, the Vivian, was motivated by homophobia. Alan Whitfield, 51, had previously admitted assault after physically assaulting the winner of the first Drag Race UK, James Lee Williams, but denied that it was motivated by homophobia. Whitfield asked the Viviana, quote, "What have you come as, an Oopa Loopa?" End quote, before punching the 31-year-old in the face at a McDonald's fast food restaurant in Liverpool.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up trans rights. Martina Navratilova explains that trans women can't be lesbians. Martina Navratilova, the renowned tennis star who is lesbian, recently sparked controversy with her remarks on a tribute by Stonewall, a leading LGBTQ plus advocacy group in the UK. Navratilova took to social media to voice her opposition to the inclusion of a transgender woman in Stonewall's Lesbian Visibility tribute, bluntly writing, quote, "A bloke cannot be a lesbian," end quote. She made the assertions in response to a video by Stonewall promoting diversity and inclusion of lesbians from diverse backgrounds, including trans women who identify as lesbians. These are not the first time she has made anti-trans or TERF remarks. These remarks are also widely perceived as transphobic and have occurred amidst growing tensions and discussions about inclusivity within the LGBTQ plus community.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up politics. Rafael Ted Cruz, hypocrisy over dead naming Bill, but we can't dead name Rafael. Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz has introduced a bill that will keep federal agencies from facing punishment for refusing to use employees' preferred pronouns or names different from their legal names. He said forcing anyone to use pronouns that don't accord with a person's biological sex is unconstitutional. That's rich coming from Cruz, who goes by his preferred name, Ted, instead of his legal name, Rafael Edward Cruz. Indeed, the Republican Party's hypocrisy knows no bounds. The proposed legislation, titled the Safeguarding Honest Speech Act, attacks the Department of Health and Human Services guidance that requires employees to be addressed by their preferred names and pronouns.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up trans rights. Boston police reopened 25-year-old murder case of Rita Hester, whose death inspired Trans Day of Remembrance event. Kathleen Hester never stopped trying to find out who killed her daughter Rita. On October 20th, 2020, Kathleen died at the age of 81 without closure. Rita Hester's murder inspired Transgender Day of Remembrance. Hester has come to symbolize the crisis of violence facing transgender people. Her murder also represents the disregard police and media show for Black transgender murder victims. The unsolved case casting a long shadow on Boston detectives. However, all of that could be changing as the Boston Police Department's new detective, Matthew Fogarty, renewed its request on November 28th for information from the public about her murder.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily television LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm John Hayden, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight who are currently getting their sugar fix, I'm looking at you, Rajee Narine-Singh. And you, Glen Weinzimer.
I don't know what to talk about.
Jeff Oliverio and Gregg Shapiro are here as well. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you a very sweet good night.
Good night.